Hey there. Our next talk is going to be on the topic impact of open source on my profession. And our speaker is in the person of Bauna. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Paurna. I'm going to share with you about the impact of open source on my professional journey. I'll begin with a little bit of introduction about me. I'm an open source contributor for over 3 years, primarily focusing on contributing to projects like Apache Airflow and ListMonk. I'm an Outreachy intern for Apache Airflow. Outreachy is a program that provides internship for underrepresented people in tech and offer them support to make open source contribution. I also have over 11 years of experience in tech industry as a backend developer. I now balance my time as a part-time open source contributor and a full-time parent. My open source journey began when I took a break from my career after my childbirth. I want to keep doing some work to upskill myself, and that's when I started contributing to open source project. Initially, I tried contributing to one of the Python Kafka client project. So I picked one of the issues and raised some questions as comments in that issue. It was not replied for very longer time, and then later I found that it was not an active project. So after trying to get started, I struggled on how to make my first contribution, and then I applied for my internship with Outreachy. To get selected into Outreachy program, you have to make considerable contribution to one of their listed projects, and I chose to make my contribution to Apache Airflow. So the main reason for me to choose Apache Airflow is for these reasons, because there is a very specific support channel for Apache Airflow community in Slack, where they had channel specifically for first time contributors, and it felt like a safe place where you can ask question without feeling embarrassed. It was suggested in that description of the channel that you can go through the contributor guidelines before posting any questions in this channel, and from there it took me to read more about contributor guidelines, which was very simple, but it was very detailed. It was broken into very simple specific topics like how to get started, how to set up the environment, and how to run unit tests, etc. So after that, I went and found that there is a subscription email list where you can get subscribed to receive email on any major feature discussion or a bug fix related discussion. So I subscribed to that, and I started receiving emails about any major feature discussion happening in the Apache Airflow community. Initially, it was difficult to understand, but after making a few contribution and reading through a lot of mail, I could better understand the discussion happening in the developer email list. Then the next important thing is the GitHub issues for Apache Airflow had neat labels like good first issue, UI, etc. So that helped to easily pick up the issue for a first time contributor. Also, all the details inside the issue are very easy to follow and reproduce in my own development setup and fix the issue, because they gathered all the issue detail using templates. So when you raise an issue into Apache Airflow, you have to give in details into templates like what is the issue, how to reproduce the issue, what are in what environment this issue occurred, and what is the expected behavior. So having all these clear details in the issue made easy for getting started in contributing to Airflow. So after picking up one of the issues in fixing the documentation typo error, I made some changes in the documentation side, and then I wanted to raise the changes to the main branch of the Airflow. That is when I've started facing my initial struggles on raising a pull request. The first thing that I really struggled hard is rebasing the code. It was entirely new to me because I'm so used to Git merge that rebasing the code was somewhat very new to me. So after that, there is a set of pipeline that runs after you raise the pull request to the main branch of Airflow. So it is like a series of steps that runs the test cases. It checks the code quality, styling, formatting, etc. depending on the code changes that you have made in that particular pull request. So Apache Airflow is a very huge project with over 3,000 plus contributors. So they have to keep all the CI pipelines tests running to ensure that the pull request raised is of good quality. So after that, if only all these pipeline tests are passed, then only the reviewers started checking the code and passed their reviews. I started to get comments for my pull request. It either asks you to fix the suggested changes by the peer reviewers, or you have to explain why you made certain changes and explain your point of view. So after resolving all the conversation, and only then your pull request is ready to get merged into the main branch. So after that, one of the very important learnings that I had in the initial time is asking the right question. So this is one of the links that my mentor shared with me. He explained why you should ask detailed questions by breaking down the details. He told to explain the problem, tell the place where you are stuck, share log traces, and what you have tried so far. So asking very precise questions like this helps to reduce the round trip time of getting answers. The more better you pose question, the more better answers you will get. So this is a question posted by one of my co-interns during my internship on how to rebase the code. So because the recommended approach of taking your code changes into the main branch in Airflow is using Git rebase. It has more advantage than Git merge because it helps to clearly distinguish a change of one person from another person and has a linear single history of commit into the main branch. So while I also had the same question of how to rebase the code, I was very hesitant to ask this question in the public. But I was very glad that my co-intern asked the question, because following things happened after she asked the question. So after she asked the question, and people in the community explained why she had to rebase the code. So it didn't stop with that, but one of the community contributor picked up that information and added to the contributor guidelines. So now the information that is asked in the Slack channel is made to every public people by adding it in the contributor guidelines. So, and it didn't stop with that, but another community member contributor enabled a button in the GitHub where you can rebase your code with a button click. So after raising a pull request, you can actually see a button where you can update your branch code with rebase as a simple button click. So I was astonished by the ripple effect of how asking a question in a public channel can lead into multiple snowballed effect of it. And one of the fastest ways to understand about the project is through reading the other pull requests. This is the next learning that I had. So in one of the issues that I have showed in here, a person was asking me that there is no retry happening whenever we make an API call, and if the response code for that API call is 429. He also mentioned that we do retry only for 5xx error code case. So then the another contributor suggested that 429 is an error code that indicates that server is too busy. So if you are going to do a retry for 429, it is going to exhaust the server side and it may cause more problem. So we can use Tenacity library is the ones that he suggested. So after reading this pull request, I started to go and check about what Tenacity library does. And here is a code snippet of how Tenacity library can be put to use. This is a API function call that uploads a file to a URL. So here this function is decorated using Tenacity library, where the configurations are passed as the parameters. See, it allows you to configure the number of atoms that you have to retry if a particular API call is failed. And I also have highlighted the parameter named wait, where between each retry you can either add a fixed delay or you can add an exponential delay between each API call. So I got to learn about this new library by reading through others' pull requests. The next important learning that I had is code is not an asset and you should not worry about throwing it away. In my case, I raised few pull requests, but it had some issues like longer loading time, etc. I will show you the snippet of a particular pull request that I raised to Airflow in a certain timeline. So here, out of 8 pull requests I raised, only 4 got merged. The other 4 got closed because of longer loading time. But I learned more from the issue that got closed and improved on myself. The next important thing that I observed in open source is it is a very rich ecosystem where each projects are interdependent on another project. While working on one of the issues, I had to use the Docker Compose command under the hood in Airflow. So when I checked in the documentation part of the Docker Compose, I found that the documentation did not have information for using a specific option. So I took that as an opportunity to raise pull request in the documentation part for Docker Compose project. So I'm really very happy to find my way in contributing to another project through Airflow. The next important lesson that I had is the written form of communication is very powerful, because in open source it happens in GitHub issues, discussions, chat channels, and in email list. One important advantage is you can go back to the comment whenever you have doubt, and we don't miss out things very easily. So I have shared the screenshot of one of the pull requests, and I have highlighted the number of conversations that I had to get this pull request merged. So when I was writing comments in pull requests, I realized that I found better approach to solve the problem. So that is when I realized that writing not only helps to exchange ideas or thoughts, but it actually helps to generate newer ideas. So with this, then I tried to work on a newer project. So I thought I can try working on a Frappe, which is a Python-based full stack framework on which many apps can be built. So I took this project because I had to implement an ERP solution for my friends, and I picked Frappe as it is open source. Some of the Frappe apps available in the open source are Frappe School and Frappe Web Builder tool. I wanted to try these apps in my local machine and explore more about it. So I cloned these projects and started working on it. So one of the major blockers in getting started with new open source contribution is the time you spend in setting up the development mode. So in case of Frappe, I wanted to experiment with their web builder and Frappe School app. So I was worried that it may take longer time to kickstart my work. But after reading through the documentation of Frappe and checking about their CLI tool, which is named as Bench, that helps to manage the multiple deployments, it became a very easy process. I used Frappe Docker for my installation and installed multiple apps. And I will show you a video of the Frappe applications. Here in this video, I have cloned the few Frappe apps using the bench command and associated the site name for those apps using the bench commands. Then giving bench start command actually starts all the site. It is up and all the sites are running in the same port number 8000 with different site name as its URL. This was an interesting way to handle multi-app development where you associate each app with each site name. So Frappe app in the background takes all the requests that comes to port number 8000 and route to the specific app based on the site name. So after my experience working with Airflow, I was able to appreciate the CLI tool Bench and how it eases the app development process in Frappe. This is one of the very important learning that I had with Frappe tool. After that, I started to explore the next project, which I contributed as a part of a hackathon. I picked up Listmonk for my hackathon because I want to get my hands on in Golang. So Listmonk is a self-hosted newsletter and mailing list manager tool. In my work experience, I believe that if we could write very extensive SQL queries in RDBMS, we can actually reduce the application code and run apps more efficiently. When we use ORM to build our build apps, we don't actually put SQL to full use. So, but I have worked mostly on projects that uses ORM to manipulate the data from the database. But Listmonk is one unconventional project that uses raw SQL queries completely from their application side code. So I was very excited to understand this project. This is one of the queries that is used to create a campaign in Listmonk, and it uses common table expression from Postgres. The main intent for me to share this 70 to 80 line of SQL code is not to explain this query, but to give you a glimpse of ideas that it kickstarted in my mind. So after seeing such a huge SQL query, I tried to express this query in ORM and gave up later. Then I also had questions on how do we handle SQL code injection if we are not using ORM directly. Then I got to know more about certain terms like parameterized queries, prepared statements, and understand more about how raw SQL queries work. So this is a great learning phase for me. So with this, I end my talk, and my intention is to show you a glimpse of the past 3 years of experience in open source project without delving very deeper into the technical learning. I hope it would lead you to explore your own journey into open source. I wish you all the best for starting your own journey into open source. Thank you.
A very warm thank you to our speaker for sharing the impact that open source have had on her profession. Thank you so much for inspiring us to do more for open source as well. Thank you. Bye.